chances are, if you're a hoop junkie like myself, you are gonna enjoy these next 2 months of basketball because March we got brackets, we got upsets, we got everything in March. All right, and closing out the regular season of the NBA too, and in April, the next month after this one, NBA playoffs. NBA playoffs are here. So it's going to be a busy 2 months. And if you're a hoops junkie, this is like basketball Christmas. This is like Christmas for us hoop fans. And, but yeah, playoff basketball is here. Regionally, like locally, high school has already got kicked off. And college basketball is almost in full swing. Conference tournaments next week as I'm recording this video on March 1st. And yeah, this is the Positionless podcast. Let's get right into it. Welcome to the Positionless podcast. This is the first episode. This is a new podcast created by myself. My name is Peyton, and basically we're gonna be covering all types of hoops, all basketball on this podcast, talking about all levels, in high school, regional high school, nationally. You talk about college. We're gonna talk about the NBA. We're gonna talk about everything. We might even bring some athletes on here to chat it up. See, and maybe give them a bigger platform. Maybe they don't have. So without further ado, today's first episode is gonna be on bracketology for college basketball. It is March 1st. The clock has struck midnight. It is officially that time. It's officially upset season. It's officially bracket season. So I made a bracket, and let me know what y'all think. In the leave a like, follow on all platforms at Positionless Pod on Twitter right now. We haven't made it to Instagram yet, but we'll be on there soon. Without further ado, let's jump into the first overall seed in this tournament. I'll have the bracket somewhere over here on the right hand side of the screen. So number one overall seed, the Houston Cougars. Now Houston, they're loaded this year. You thought they were loaded last year? They reloaded again this year. And I said it when the transfer, or in April, May, when the transfer portal was bumping, I said that they were going to be better than they were last year because they added LJ Cryer from Baylor, Jamal Shedd's back, Emmanuel Sharp was coming off a good freshman season, and those three have really blossomed in this Houston system this year, and it shows because they're number one in the net right now. Number one in the net right now is on March 1st. They have the number one scoring defense. They only allow 56 points a game. First off, that's I can't speak for itself, and I believe they have a better resume than Purdue. I believe the Big 12 is a better conference than the Big 10. Purdue also has some bad losses. They lost to Northwestern. First game of the Big 10 season, actually. They lost at Northwestern, in a thriller. That was a great game. They have a couple of losses. Some aren't too bad. They won the Maui Invitational back in November. That was a great showing by them. Established themselves as the number one team in the nation during that tournament. But yeah, I believe Houston is the number one overall seed as of right now. They do play at Oklahoma tomorrow because this is March 1st. March 2nd is on the Saturday. They play out at Oklahoma. If they lose that game, I think they could drop down to maybe the number 2 overall seed. Regardless, they're staying at 1 no matter what. So they'll be a 1. It just depends on who would they play if they were to lose that game. And have them play, Merrimack or Southern. Merrimack actually has a good freshman, Adam Clark, averaging about 10 points and 4 assists right now for Merrimack, and should win NEC Freshman of the Year. If he doesn't, I think it'd be a complete travesty. If you pay attention to Northeast Conference hoops, you know that he's pretty solid. And actually, Merrimack won the conference back in 2020 in their first year in D1. Couldn't play because of the eligibility rules. So that would be a great story if they made the tournament. They were to win the conference tournament this year. And then Southern is second seed in the SWAC right now. I think they're probably one of the most talented teams. Don't play very many guys, but I believe they'll win the SWAC easily. Then in that 8-9 matchup, Boise State at the 8, and Michigan State at the 9. Michigan State could be a 9, they could be a 10. I think they could fluctuate anywhere from 8, 9, 10, depending on how they close out the season. They actually play at Purdue tomorrow. On Saturday, they play at Purdue. If they were to win that game, I think they may be bumped up to an 8, maybe stay at a 9, depending on what they do in the Big 10 tournament next week. Just can't lose any bad games. Just cannot afford to lose. If you look at their remaining schedule here, they play. Oh, hold on 1 second, guys. All right, here we go. They do play. Okay, Purdue on Saturday. If they were to win that game, I mean, like I said, I think they'll be bumped up to maybe at 8. I don't think they get anywhere past 8. You got Northwestern on Wednesday at home. If we were to lose that game, it's a crucial opportunity. That should be a quad 1 game, and then they cannot lose to Indiana. If they lose to Indiana, then their stock is really plummeting. Maybe even 10, maybe the like last 4 in. Maybe that would be a brutal loss. Indiana has been abysmal this year. Yeah, Michigan State at the 9. I'm not gonna predict any matchups because these are hypothetical. So not gonna predict these games because they really might not even happen. So yeah, we'll make predictions when the official bracket comes out here in 2 weeks. In that 5-12 game, BYU with the 5. I think they're a dangerous team. I'm a big believer in this BYU squad. They shoot they shoot more threes than they have twos. They've actually taken 30 more 3-point attempts than they have 2-point attempts, which is actually kind of crazy. There's only been about 8 teams to do that, and they're technically the best team that's done that statistically, rankings wise. They are the best. They are the best KenPom team, KenPom ranked team that shot more threes than they had twos on the season. And they're actually ranked 10 right now. The net loves BYU because their offensive efficiency was off the charts. They did play a really weak non-conference schedule. They played a couple tough games in Arizona State and NC State earlier in the season. And then Utah too was a good conference, non-conference matchup. Excuse me. But yeah, they're 10th in the net right now. The net loves BYU. They've always loved them the whole season. Because they would drop about 100 points, 90 points on teams like Evansville or Denver, just leaving their guys in and scoring as many points as they could to, boost their efficiency numbers. They are a little misleading, but not too much because they can score. They can really score the basketball and shoot that thing. They can shoot that thing out there in Provo. Then they're playing Richmond as the AQ right now. I do have them as the AQ out of the A10 because they are leading the conference in the standings right now. They are number 1 in the A10 right now. So realistically, if they don't win the conference tournament, I don't think they get in. But if they do win the conference tournament, they are going to be projected about that 12 seed line. I don't think they have a chance against BYU unless BYU just comes out and just cannot hit a shot to save their life. Sorry, I said I wasn't going to predict, but kind of got off track. It's hard not to predict. But in that 4-13 game, this would be a great matchup to happen. Baylor versus Princeton. Baylor, they got guys like Ray J. Dennis. I actually have him as my number 16th overall seed here on this bracket. That's why they're in the top part of the bracket. But yeah, I have him as the last top 16. I've seen Joel Lenardi had him at like a 3. I don't think they're any better than that. I don't, because they had a chance. They had a chance to boost it at Houston last Saturday. But they blew it. Eve Misi, come on, man. You got to finish the dunk, big fella. And you got to hit free throws. Because if you can't hit free throws in the tournament, when it gets down to that nitty-gritty and you can't hit free throws, you might be on the wrong side of an upset. And, Baylor, they got guys like Ray J. Dennis. Ray J. Dennis has been really good for them this year coming from Toledo. I think he's definitely an all Big 12 type caliber guy. Like I said, Eve Misi down there on the glass, projected top 20 pick. A lot of high upside out of him. Guys like Jaden Nunn have been contributing. Jalen Bridges has been very good for him. And yeah, I think Baylor could possibly be scary in March if they click. They had a good game at TCU the other night on Monday, I believe. They had a good game and they played really well and they blew them out of the water. So that would be a great, interesting matchup. Enough of Baylor. Princeton. If you know me, I'm a big fan of the Ivy League. I'm a big fan, especially this year. This year they had early on Penn was looking solid, but then they had an injury to their leading scorer, kind of slowed down their momentum. But the top 3 seeds in the Ivy League, I believe, could all win a game in the NCAA tournament, and only one of them's going to get in, which is sad. You got Princeton, which I have predicted here as they're tied with Yale and Cornell for 3-way tie, a top for first. I believe after today that should be settled, if I'm not mistaken. Because Princeton and Cornell do play tomorrow night on Saturday, assuming they win their games tonight. on Friday. And, Princeton, I've been big on them the whole year. I've been big on them ever since that first win at Rutgers. Even before that, to be honest with you, I didn't expect Xavier Lee to be the breakout player that he is. But I was high on him because they were bringing back a lot of experience from that Sweet 16 run last year. And they haven't had a lot of quad win opportunities. That's probably why they're lower here. If they had about maybe 1 or 2 quad wins, I believe they could probably be as high as an 11. But they don't have those opportunities. Being from an Ivy League, don't get those big non-conference schedules like some of their schools. They did lose to St. Joseph's, one of the last non-conference games of their schedule. Not a terrible loss at the time, but looking back now, it kind of looks a little iffy. But you can't fully judge that. So, yeah, Princeton, I like Princeton at 13. Moving on to the 6-11, South Carolina. They've been, what a job Lamont Paris has done. Lamont Paris in the second year, coming from Georgia State, has been great. He's been great for South Carolina Gamecocks. They weren't that great last year with Gigi. But Michi Johnson has stepped up this year. Michi Johnson. There is one other guy. He has 2 last names. I can't remember off the top of my head. Let me look at that real quick because there's a lot of names that can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah, Colin Murray Boyle's high upside freshman. I've seen this kid play. He is legit. He could be not a star, but he could be a really good rotational piece in the NBA, assuming that he pans out. He's averaging 9 or 10 points a game right now, 5 rebounds, shooting 60% from the floor. Really bit of an inside guy, big man. Not top 100 recruit coming out of high school, but this kid can play. He was mocked like either late first round or second round of the 2025 draft on ESPN earlier this week. So he is a good player, and he could really make some strides in this with them being such a good team this year. And then Michi Johnson and BJ Mack has been good for him too, the big fella out of Wofford. Try guarding a 6'8", 250-pound big man that can shoot the ball and not really a physical rebounder. Doesn't play as physical as you want him to, but have trouble stopping him inside when he gets going. And he's stepping out for a 3. Then what can you do? What can you do? You can't really do much about that. Then Talon Cooper, their point guard, has been great as well with averaging 4 assists. I like the South Carolina team a lot. And they're playing Indiana State, who's been really the story of the Missouri Valley and the Cinderella of this season with Robbie Avila going viral, game after game for his Nikola Jokic type play. I'm not really a big fan of that comp because, he can pass the ball and he can shoot a little bit, but he doesn't really play like Jokic a whole lot, I don't think. I think he's his own player, but they do got some other guys on that team that can really give you problems. Isaiah Swope being one of them, transfer from Southern Indiana. I believe he averaged about 17 a game there last year, and he's averaging 17 a game in a better conference and on a better team, which is impressive. He's made good strides as a short, undersized guard. One of those guys, not really next level talent, but this kid can play. This kid can play. He's averaging 17 a game right now and 3 rebounds as a 5'10" guard. 3 rebounds as a 5'10" guard. That's not easy to do. And he was all OVC last year at Southern Indiana, so he's a proven player. He has a chance for breakout potential in this tournament if they can go far. And they of course got some other guys that are really solid for that team. But if I could break down every team individually, I would be here for maybe about 2 hours because this is a 68-team tournament. So next after that, in the South region, I forgot to clarify, this is the South region with Houston being the number 1 seed. Up top, Duke versus Akron. I like Duke a lot. Not a whole lot. I'm one of those guys. I don't like Duke. I'd hate seeing them win, but sometimes you just got to recognize greatness. John Shire has been great in his second year as the head coach. Went to the tournament last year, kind of came up short in the tournament, losing to Tennessee in the round 32. But first year head coach, it was impressive what he did last year, especially with a bunch of freshmen coming in last year, and then they brought some of those guys back and brought even more freshmen in. But Sean Stewart's been kind of disappointing, but Jeremy Kane has really picked it up as of late, and if he keeps up the play, he could be a March Madness breakout star. He's already a breakout star as it is, TikTok sensation, but he could emerge even more, and he could even soar up draft boards with a good performance in the postseason. Then Akron out of the MAC, got a guy named Enrique Freeman, averaging about 15 points and like 13 rebounds. Can't really shoot that well, but Akron is solid. They have had a worse year than I thought they would, in the MAC. But they are still 22-8, I believe, as of right now. So not too shabby. Nothing you should complain about. They are playing good. They did bring back Ali, from Baylor, or not Baylor, Butler, who transferred from out of Akron to Butler and came back. He's a solid 6'8" wing that could provide some scoring for him too. And then that 7-10 game, I got Clemson at the 7 and New Mexico at the 10. PJ Hall could really lead this team into, I'm not gonna say a second weekend, but if he has some big performances, don't be surprised if they're in that second weekend in the Sweet 16. Yeah, and then they got a bunch of other guys on that team too that really play their role well. They did start off non-conference hot and slowly crept into ACC play. They kind of struggled once they got in, but once they picked up the pace over here the last couple weeks. New Mexico is one of those teams that I think can get hot at any moment. Once they're hot, they could beat a lot of teams in college basketball. Jalen House and Jamal Mashburn is a dynamic two-way guard duo. I mean, that's like probably the best two guard combos maybe in the country for me, maybe top 10 if I'm being real. Jalen House in high school was known as a menace on defense. Eddie House's son. He can really score. He can really play make too. That's a big thing about him. I believe is underrated about him. He can really play make off the dribble, out of ball screens, pick and rolls, all that. He can really make plays. They're one of those teams that loaded up on the transfer portal as well. They brought in Nelly Jr. Joseph from Iona, who played for Richard Pitino's dad, who was the coach of New Mexico, played for Rick at Iona last year, for a couple years actually. And then they brought in Isaac Mushila, who has been he's been underwhelming as a player, as a rebounder down low for them, from Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Mustafa Amzil has been solid off the bench for him from Dayton. But Donovan Den as well has really stepped up in his sophomore season. Donovan Den, I love his game a lot. Plays a little bit too flashy for my liking. But how can you not love a flashy guard? How could you not love a flashy guard with a nice lay package, man? How could you not love that? But yeah, once back to the team aspect, I believe New Mexico is a team that could really make some noise if they get going, if they get hot. And if they don't, then they could probably fall out and get blown out in this first round. I mean, that's what I think. I think New Mexico is really hit or miss. So that's it for the South region. All right, I apologize. We have one more matchup in the South region. We have Auburn as the 2 seed and Morehead as the 15. Auburn, Aiden Holloway has been a really good freshman. Should be SEC all freshman. Should be. If he's not, then we're gonna have to have some words with the SEC, because what's going on if he's not? Got a lot of guys. They lost Jalen Williams in that game versus Kentucky a couple weeks ago with a knee injury that didn't look good. I believe he's maybe out for the year. If he's not, then he's just out for an extended period of time, which could hurt because this team is really solid. It could give off a little bit of Chuma Okeke vibes. Obviously not too much as a player, but as the situation where they could have won a natty that year in 2019 if Chuma did not get hurt, I believe. But yeah, this could be one of those situations where they did lose to Tennessee, but Tennessee, Dalton Connect was on fire. You can't stop Dalton Connect once he gets going. But yeah, I believe Auburn is still the top team to be reckoned with in this tournament, especially in the South region. Could you imagine a Houston, Auburn, Elite Eight? That would be a fun matchup, in my opinion. And then Morehead is a guy that isn't really being talked about a lot. Riley Minix. He's averaging 20 and 10. Yeah, 20 and 10. You probably never heard of this guy. He's a 6'7" guard, and he can shoot the ball as well. He's a little bit unique. He plays like a big man, but he can handle like a guard. In their offense, I believe it's just because of their offense that they run. He's in pick and roll situations a lot, and but he can shoot the rock too. I mean, he shoots 34%, but I'll take that as a 6'7" guard that's playing really the 4 or the 5. He's not even playing a position that he's used to, so he's really shooting off of things that he's not used to. Yeah, it's catch and shoot, but you're not used to shooting off pick and pop as a guard, if you know what I'm saying. But yeah, 20 and 10, that's unreal. And he's shooting 55% from the floor. I'm not saying it's gonna be an upset, because they do have a guy in oh my goodness, I apologize. I don't know his first name off the top of my head. Let me look at this I think it's Thelwell. I'm forgetting his name. Drew Thelwell is actually top 5 in the NCAA in assists per game, averaging about 6.4. I apologize, 6.4 assists. Drew Thelwell, and he also shoots the ball pretty well. They do have some other scorers and some guys like Khalil Thomas and Jordan Lathan that are solid seniors as well. This team is a senior-led team, and they do have some experience, and they have a little bit of size with a guy named Deontay Miles being 6'10", but averaging 5 rebounds a game. They rebound the wall very well, and they are also top 5 in opponent field goal percentage. So they do force teams to miss shots. You can't. I mean, that's always a good thing. But if they can convert and maybe get something going early, watch out. Watch out for Moorhead and Riley Minix. So that's the South region. So this right here should be disappearing about any second. So here, moving on to the West region now. Number 1 seed Arizona. Out of the West. I think this team is very dangerous. You know, we saw them beat Duke at Cameron, start of the season. That was a great non-conference win. That was probably the best win at the time, obviously. But you know, Arizona, they have had some losses in Pac-12 play, more than you would like. But I mean, you know, it's conference play. You're bound to lose games in conference play. But yeah, I like Caleb Love. Caleb Love has been playing really well as of late. And Umar Ballo down there still. You know, Pelly Larson, they have some experience from the number 1 seed team 2 years ago that made it to the Sweet 16. Ultimately ended up losing to Houston. They got some experience from that team still with Pelly Larson, Umar Ballo, and Keyshawn Johnson came over from San Diego State. He's been playing really well as well this year. So they got some guys, and they play. If you know Arizona, you know Tommy Lloyd. They play a really fast-paced offense. They play a high-paced offense. I believe they're top 5 in tempo this year as well. Top 10 in tempo per KenPom. But yeah, that's Arizona, and then I got them playing Quinnipiac out of the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference. I'm sorry, I apologize. The MAC, there's 2 MACs, so you kind of got to get confused. But yeah, Quinnipiac, I believe if he still is leading the nation in assists, no, he's not actually. He's 6th. He's he's 6th right now in assists. Savion Lewis averaging 7.1 a game, which is pretty impressive. Doesn't really shoot the ball, but he's a true floor general and a point guard. He's a pretty good college player, and then they have some other pieces on there as well. Matt Belanc has been really good past couple years, and I believe he's averaging about 15 points right now. But yeah, Matt Belanc has been good, but I don't see him. You know, it's a great story. They just took first bat because they won. I believe they win tonight and Fairfield loses, they take that first place spot back from Fairfield. And I ultimately believe that Quinnipiac will win that tournament. So in the 8-9 game that will play the winner of that game is, oh my goodness, I lost track. TCU and Northwestern. TCU at the 8, Northwestern at the 9. TCU has been really solid this season. They've been really gritty. They have a win at Baylor in triple OT. What a game. Oh my goodness, what a game. They also did beat K-State about a week ago off a buzzer beater from Jameer Nelson Jr. And that was an insane game as well. That was a great game to watch during a Saturday. Early tip as well from that game. But Jameer Nelson Jr. has been good for them. They were another team that brought a lot of transfers. Ernest Uday hasn't been what we expected for TCU, but he come from Kansas. But he has been solid. He's been really solid down low for him. You know, they got Assam Mustafa from Coastal Carolina, great rebounder. Travian Tennyson, a sniper from deep, from Corpus Christi. This team's got some good guys, and you know they have some good quality wins. I believe they could. They have a potential, and if this were to happen, this would be another rematch. This would be a rematch from 2022, round 32, when TCU was at 8 or 9. I can't really exactly remember which one they were. Playing in Arizona in the second round, and that game went to OT. That was a great game. I was actually there at that game. And that was a great game in San Diego. But the Northwestern at the 9, you know, Northwestern, I believe, is a great team. They have a win over Purdue earlier in the season. They do have a really bad loss to Chicago State. That may be one of the worst. That might be the worst loss the team has from an at-large in this tournament. But I mean, they make up for it with their talent. Ryan Lambour coming from Princeton has been really good for him. Of course, you can't forget to mention Boo Buie, who's now the all-time leading scorer at Northwestern, which is impressive. Congrats to him. He's been really great. He's been great this season. Outstanding. He can easily carry this team to the second weekend, I believe. And they have size and 7-footer Matt Nicholson, who picked it up mid-season. Mid-season, he was playing pretty well in the middle area of the season. Kind of slowed down a little bit though, but you love some size on your team. And then Brooks Barnheiser has been solid as well for him. And I believe they are top 30 in the net, so which is pretty good for a 9 seed if you ask me. I'm sorry, top 50. They're 48. Okay, never mind. That's not. I was looking at the wrong page, but regardless, Northwestern is still scary. And also, I'm not really the biggest fan of the net and there's been a lot of talk with the Big 12, maybe manipulating the net with, the weak non-conference schedule and playing their whole squad, the whole game, boosting these numbers up to make it look like once they get into conference play, their losses aren't as bad as they look. Now, I'm not saying the Big 12 is not a good conference. I'm not saying that at all, because it really is the best conference in America. But I can see their point with what they're saying, with what the coaches are saying. And I believe it was specifically, goodness, I forgot what coach it was that said that earlier this week, that the Big 12 was manipulating the net. But the Big 12 is still a talented conference, regardless. So moving on to that 5-12 game, I believe. Yeah, Washington State at the 5. Yes, I have them at a 5. I've seen people have them as low as a 7, a 6. I think they're going to have to be a 5, especially with that win at Arizona. The stock is going up for these Cougs, man. The stock is going up. Who would have thought Wazoo was going to be a 5th seed in the NCAA tournament? Who even thought they were going to make it this year? So I know I didn't, because they got third-year freshman Miles Rice, who actually came back from cancer. Miles Rice came back from cancer this year. I believe it was, I'm not going to say what type it was because I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head. I don't want to mess that up because, that would be really wrong on my part. Yeah, they're 6-3 in quad 1. They don't shoot free throws well. They're bottom 20 in free throw percentage, actually. They're bottom 20 in free throw percentage. And you got to make free throws to win games in the tournament, because especially in a 5-12 game, when they're playing the team that I'm about to mention, some storage issues, but we're back. Apologize for that. Yeah, like I was saying, Wazoo's bottom 20 in free throw percentage, playing Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon's got a lot of good guys. Tyon Grant Foster has been really good for him out of coming from DePaul, who actually had a scare medically before he was cleared back to play. That'd be a great matchup in the West region. And then at the 4 seed below that, San Diego State. Another thing about San Diego State, they lock up on defense. They play great defense. Brian Dutcher's got them taught well. Brought back a lot of production from last year's squad as well. That made the national title runner-up. I don't believe they have that same potential in them, but I could be wrong. Do not count out the Aztecs, because they are really solid. Again this year, playing against the 13th seed UC Irvine. UC Irvine, this would actually be a rematch from earlier in the season. UC Irvine is a really solid team. They got size, they got scoring. Justin Hahn has been good for him. And I think UC Irvine at the 13, they've played there before. They beat K-State back in 2019. That was the last time they actually made the tournament. And I believe they could have some upset potential. They could have some Cinderella potential in them. But below that, the 6-11 game, this is the first bubble game of the tournament right here. Dayton at the 6, and then you got Providence and Gonzaga in the first 4. I believe Gonzaga won last night against San Francisco, so that was a quad 1 opportunity, and I believe they took advantage of that. They need as many as they can get, because they only have 1 quad 1 win right now, which is absolutely abysmal for a team like Gonzaga, who has been so good historically. In the tournament, they made about, I think it was something like 16 straight tournaments, which is unbelievable. But Providence actually plays Villanova tomorrow, which is a big time matchup, because Villanova's right on the outside looking in, And winner of that game will probably get the spot, barring any bad losses before that or after that. Yeah, so that'd be the bubble game, Providence against Gonzaga, right there. One of those last 4 in. Below that, at the 3 and 14, I got Creighton at the 3 and UNC Wilmington at the 14. Creighton's got a lot of guys. Baylor Shireman's back, Trey Alexander's back. They brought in Stephen Ashford from Utah State. Kalkbrenner, of course, is having a monster year for him as a presence inside. It has improved his three-point jumper as well, so be on the lookout for that. Ryan Kalkbrenner has really made strides. He's really made strides, and he's picking up about 3 blocks a game, I believe, which is, he's a 7-footer. He should be doing that, but that is impressive for a guy like him. Coming back and bringing that production, who's been impactful since he was a freshman, actually. So, yeah, Kalkbrenner, the combination of those guys, really solid team in Creighton. But then you got UNC Wilmington, who actually beat Kentucky on the road early in the season. Trezarian White has been really, really good for him. Their net rating isn't all that great because they have had some bad losses in conference play. But I believe Trezarian White and Skyheim Phillips, and they got some really good defensive pieces in Shamar Rathan Mays, whose brother was actually Florida State standout Xavier Rathan Mays, however you say it. Apologize. But Trezarian White, yeah, averaging 20 games, 7 rebounds, can shoot the 3 and can get a bucket whenever he wants. As a 6'6" forward, he's a really solid player. I've watched him grow since his freshman year. He's been really good. He actually came from D2 or JUCO, I believe, somewhere in Texas, but he's been really solid since he was a freshman 2 years ago for the Seahawks. Man, I keep butchering stuff. So yeah, then below that, the 7-10 game, I have Nebraska. Yes, I have Nebraska at a 7. I've seen people have them as low as a 10. They can really fluctuate here between the Big Ten tournament now and the Big Ten tournament. They could really use some of these. I believe they just lost though. I believe they just lost the other night. I think it was to Ohio State. Yeah, not a good one. Not a good one. This is as of March 1st. Didn't get the chance to update it, but I believe that would probably knock them down to an 8. I don't think it would knock them down to a 9. It's a little bit too far of a drop. But, you know, Nebraska has been really great at home, outstanding at home, only lost about 1 or 2 games. But on the road, not been good at all. They did pick up a win in Minnesota, though. They did pick up a win in Minnesota, or at home against Minnesota, which, of course, you're going to win at home because Big Red is Big Red, and, you know, they're always known for being really good at home and having the most passionate fans. Yeah, Keisei Tominaga, one of my favorite players. Yeah, Tominaga's really been one of my favorite players. Shooting the ball really well. He's a 3-point sniper. They got guys like Bryce Williams as well, who could really project them in the tournament. And playing Texas, you know, Texas has been really kind of underwhelming this year. You know, they've been up and down with Max Abmas, you know, kind of disappointing. Max Abmas has not been disappointed at all. He's been really good. But, you know, losing the commits like Ron Holland and all that. But, yeah, Texas at the 10, I believe they could make some noise possibly in this tournament. But then their opponent in the second round will be either Tennessee or Colgate. Tennessee at the 2. Tennessee's been really good. Dalton Connect. It's Dalton Connect. Dalton Connect. Know the name. Dalton Connect. He's been on fire this season. Actually averaged 32.5 points over a 5-game stretch in SEC play, which is absolutely nuts. Nuts coming from a guy that didn't even play in the conference a year prior to this season. And then Colgate, of course, you know what you're going to get from Colgate. It's shooting. They actually haven't shot the ball as well from 3 this season, but they can still shoot that thing. So moving on to the east side, we got UConn as the 1 seed, reigning champs. We all know about them. Donovan McClain, Cam Spencer, Tristan Newton, Stephon Castle. Tristan Newton's been putting up numbers. Actually put up a triple-double the other day, earlier this week. So big game for him. Big season for him, actually. My apologies. Then they're playing either Eastern Kentucky or Norfolk. Eastern Kentucky's got talent. Leland Walker, Tayshawn Comer, Devontae Blanton, and of course Isaiah Kozar, who's leading the country in blocks, averaging about 3.7 a game, I believe. Then below that, the 8-9, you would get Oklahoma versus Mississippi State. Oklahoma started off really good in non-conference play. Kind of really slowed down in Big 12 play though. I think they could make some noise in this tournament, possibly. I don't know if they could be a second weekend though. Mississippi State has been good as well with Josh Hubbard, the star freshman that not a lot of people knew about, but now they know if you pay attention. Josh Hubbard has been balling this season. He's been hooping. Then Tolu Smith, of course, coming back, all SEC player a year ago. This team could be dangerous. This team could be possibly dangerous. And then below that, at the 5-12, Kentucky. If you watch hoops, you know about Kentucky. You know about Rob Dillingham. You know about Reed Shepherd. Oh my goodness, 50% from the three. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? 50% from the three. What? I don't even know the last time something that happened in really NBA or college. That is absurd. And he's averaging about 2 steals a game too. He can play defense. He can do it all. Then you got guys like Justin Edwards has been picking up. He had a 30-point game with 100% shooting earlier this week. Kentucky is a little bit lower because of their metrics, but the talent-wise, they play like a 3 seed. But they play App State. If they were to play App State at 12 has been really good. They actually have a win over Auburn this season at home. Justin Addison just denies shots around the rim. Incredible shot blocker. And then you got guys like Trayvon Spillers who can really light it up as well. And then some of the guys, Miles Tate from Butler, can really score the ball too. That's sneaky. That's a dangerous team in App State. And then below that, Alabama at the 4 line. The metrics love them. KenPom loves them. The net loves them. They're top 10 in the net and have one of the toughest schedules according to KenPom. They played a really tough non-conference schedule and didn't win as many games as they would like, but they got the numbers up and they have been impressive in SEC play. They play really fast. They average the most points in the country, about 91 points a game. Absurd. This team could do some damage as well. This is another one of those mid-seeds that could really do some damage. Voice crack, oh my goodness. But Samford, that'd be an Alabama versus Alabama matchup. Samford plays really, this would probably end up being, they both might score 100. Both these teams are top 10 in scoring in the country. Samford actually scored 70 points in a half earlier this season against VMI, and they ended up finishing with 134, which is absurd in college. That's unbelievable. So this would be a track meet like no other. I honestly kind of hope this game happens because that will be really entertaining. Yes, Texas Tech at the 6th line below that in the East region. Texas Tech, you know what you're gonna get defense. Pop Isaacs has been the leading scorer. He's been really good this season. Besides what happened in Bahamas, if you know, you know. But they'd be playing South Florida, who I don't think gets in without an AQ. If not, they don't win the American Conference tournament. I don't think they get in, which is kind of sad, but it's also reality because they have bad ball. They lost to Maine at home in non-conference. That's unacceptable. And then they've really stepped out in American play. They don't have that many. I don't think they have a quad one win, if I believe. But if you were to do the eye test, if this was college football, they'd probably get in because of the eye test. They've been playing really well. They play like a tournament team as of right now. And what a job that Amir Abdul-Rahim has done, coming from Kennesaw State last year. He led them from, they didn't even have one win about 4 years ago. Led them to the tournament last year. Great head coach. One of them on the rise at South Florida. Then in the East region, the 3 seed, I got Kansas. KU, they have no depth. I don't know if they make it that far in this tournament without the star play of Hunter Dickinson, and if McCullough is a little bit iffy. He hasn't been as healthy recently, so he's been kind of inefficient being unhealthy. So that would be kind of scary if they were to get this matchup against La Tech at the 14. La Tech is a very underrated squad. Check them out if you haven't. Isaiah Crawford's a player. At the 7-10, Florida versus Virginia. Florida has really done work in the SEC conference this year. Riley Kugel and Zion Poland have been really good together. Micah Hanglon has been well defending the paint too. But playing Virginia, Ryan Dunn has been the best defender in the country. Doesn't have an outside game, but really low scoring game. Florida scores a lot. Virginia likes to play slow. It'd be a contrast of styles, and really anyone can win this game depending on what depending on who just got the upper hand early. Whoever gets the upper hand early in this game, if it were to happen, would probably win this game. Then finally, rounding out the East region, Marquette. Back-to-back 2 seed, Big Ten, all Big Ten players. Cam Jones actually averaged 22 points a game his last 5. Tyler Kolek, also Iguodala, just to name those 3, that big 3 over there in Wisconsin, have been really solid. And Youngstown got a lot of scores. Brandon Rush, Ziggy Reed coming from Merrimack, who was in this tournament as well. DJ Burns. They got a lot of transfers from other mid majors, but they have had a really solid season in the Horizon. Moving on to the Midwest. We're on the Midwest now with Purdue as the 1. Zach Edey is really the heart and soul of this team. You got guys like Braden Smith and Fletcher Loyer, 2 that can play. Is this the year that they break through? I don't know. I'm not going to make any predictions because you really don't know. People call them pretenders, then people call them contenders, and then they end up being pretenders. You don't know. You don't know until it happens. I mean, coming off last year, I don't know. It's going to be really tough to predict this team if they can translate it to the postseason. But we'll see. And then they will be playing South Dakota State as a 16. One of my favorite 16 seeds if they were to get in. I'm a big Zeke Mayo fan. He was on this tournament team from 2 years ago when they won 30 games. Electric scorer and a really good player. They also have an athletic big man, William Kyle, too. That is a force down low. And then that region's 8-9 game would be Colorado State versus FAU, which would be an entertaining matchup with Isaiah Stevens, who they actually lost to Nevada the other night on a half-court buzzer beater. Went to sleep before I could experience that. That was a true heartbreaker. When I woke up in the morning, looking at my phone, first thing I see, Jared Lucas hits a half-court buzzer beater. I was sad because I turned that game off. I thought it was over. Missed out on a buzzer beater, an incredible buzzer beater because it's March. It wasn't even March yet, but when you're in that, it's March now, and you can tell. But they'd be playing FAU, who has been really on a decline this season. Disappointing, I would say, in the American first season. They've had the guys, they have the talent. They do have a win over Arizona on a neutral floor, which is a big win for them. That holds a lot of weight. That's probably why they're going to get in. I'm not going to say they're an absolute lock, barring some bad losses to end the season. But I do believe they should be in if, everything goes right and they don't lose any more bad games, because they do have that impressive win over Arizona. I do believe they're a tournament team. And then St. Mary's is the 5 in the Midwest versus McNeese. St. Mary's locks up. If you watch Randy Bennett, they're really disciplined. They run their sets. One of my favorite teams to watch. And they do play Gonzaga tomorrow night for... I think they would still earn first place in the West Coast Conference. I believe they would still win the conference regardless of a win or loss. But they could go undefeated if they beat Gonzaga. That would be their last conference game, 16-0. That'd be really impressive, especially after the way they started the season in non-conference, losing to teams like Weber State and Utah, and some other bad ones too as well. You would never thought this would be, if they had a good non-conference, they could be anywhere from a 3 to 4. But they play McNeese, who's one of the scariest teams in this tournament. Probably going to end up winning 30 games, barring any more bad losses in conference play. They play defense. I believe they were close to. Believe they're somewhere in either scoring defense. Yeah, they're the 4th scoring defense in the country, only giving up 61 points a game. And they played at Michigan. They didn't really they don't really have a quality schedule, but they have a quality talent. Shahada Wells, who transferred from TCU, has been really good for them. Christian Shoemate has been a really good piece for them as well. Athletic forward there. And then below that, the 4 line, Illinois. I believe they are a solid 4 seed. Some say they can get to a 3, maybe fall as well as a 5. But I believe Illinois is a firm contender to maybe rise with some performances in the Big Ten tournament. And then maybe playing Vermont at the 13. Vermont is, they're always solid. They're always good. The Catamounts really control the America East every year, and rightfully so. They have a good coach in John Decker, and they bring in good talent and good pieces from other schools when they need to. TJ Long has been a really good sniper for them this season, averaging about 12 points a game as their leading scorer. And Aaron Deloney can light it up as well off the bench. And then that's sixth line. This is the other bubble game in this tournament. The sixth line, I got Wisconsin, who was as high as a 2, and then went 2-6 in February, which is abysmal. Having losses to I'm pretty sure they lost to. I don't want to. They lost some bad conference games in the month of February. And let me look at it right here, because these were not good games. These were not good. Look, they lost at Indiana. They lost at Iowa. Lose at Rutgers by 20. And then, they lost to Michigan. For a team that was top 10 in the start of the month of February, and they lose 2 out of 6 and lose to Michigan, that I wouldn't be surprised if they finish the season well, they could probably maybe stay at a 6, maybe go to a 5. I don't think they get any higher than a 5. Absolutely not. But in that bubble game would be Wake Forest or Seton Hall. Wake lost at Notre Dame earlier this week. They could have stayed in at the 10, maybe even a 10. They weren't to lose that game. That really hurt them. That hurt Steve Forbes and his squad. Hurt their chances. And actually a Bixby native from Oklahoma. I am an Oklahoman. If you do not know me watching this podcast, I am from Oklahoma. Parker Fredrickson, a sniper from Bixby, Oklahoma, for Wake has been good. But Hunter Sallis has been the real story for him. Actually won National Player of the Week last week for the Demon Deeks. Playing Seton Hall and Shaheen Holloway. If you watched 2 years ago, how can you not love Shaheen Holloway? I'd love to see him back in the tournament, bringing that defensive grit and great coaching for the Pirates, who have actually beat the 1 seed in the East Region, UConn, earlier in the season by 15. Solid win for them, or the Pirates early in the season. And then here, the 3 line, I got the Cyclones of Iowa State, who actually forced the 3rd most turnovers per game, which is incredible. They've really played defense. They actually held Oklahoma to 40-something points this week. Really good defensive team playing. They play High Point as a 14. High Point has been really good this season. Had some guys, Kessa Giffa, who came in from some D2 school. I can't remember the name exactly. I apologize. Had a dude named Justin Bodobodo, who came from as a highly touted recruit for High Point, coming out of Southern California Academy, and really had some other guys. Duke Miles is their leading scorer, coming from Troy. Really solid year for High Point in their first year head coach. Utah State is actually the best seeded Mountain West team I have on my bracket at the 7 line. And they would play Nevada. I don't think that would happen, obviously, because the conference, they wouldn't play each other. But for seeding purposes, this is how I had it. This is how I ended up with the overall seeding. Utah State, Danny Sprinkle has been really good from his first year at Montana State. Took him to the tournament 2 straight years. First time in program history, I believe, last year. Brought in a lot of transfers, brought great Osselbohr with him. He's been great, no pun intended. But yeah, and then Nevada with Steve Alford back in the tournament with guys like Jared Lucas, veterans, Keenan Blackshear, they could probably make some noise too. I believe these 2 Mountain West schools, both of them could really make noise depending on the right matchup, if they get the right matchup in the tournament. And finally, rounding out the bracket, the bottom of the Midwest region, UNC at the 2. I really believe that this team could do some great damage. RJ Davis just had 42 earlier this week. Insane scoring ability. Harrison Ingram's really stepped up with the shot, making plays, for the Tar Heels as well. They've been really good, getting a lot of contribution from all their guys, and that's what they need to win games in this tournament and win games overall. And they play Eastern Washington, who is big. I believe they only have 1 guy under 6'3" in their starting lineup, and that's their point guard, Ellis Munginson. But you got Cedric Coward and Jake Kyman from Wyoming and UCLA came over. Cedric Coward actually had 30 a couple of nights, I think last week. Yes, they got some talent and some size on that roster. They could match up well with a team like UNC. High West. Got good height in that lineup. That's rounding out this bracket. This edition of Bracketology as of March 1st. It is March. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this Bracketology. I believe I had a pretty accurate bracket. I looked at Bracketology and it looked kind of similar to what mine was. So I'm not saying I'm an expert. I'm just an amateur. I'm just an amateur ball knower. that made no sense, but yeah, we're gonna live with it. But yeah, this bracket, it's getting close. We're about 2 weeks away from Selection Sunday. Things could really change from now and then. I believe that teams will enter conference tournaments starting next week. I could be wrong, but yeah, next week I believe they'll be entering conference tournaments. So I know the ASUN just dropped their bracket. I think they dropped tonight or tomorrow. But anyways, conference tournaments starting in the next couple weeks. Things could really fluctuate. Teams could be bid stealers like Richmond, South Florida. Teams couldn't be bid stealers, and you could see some more at-large teams get in. And also on my bubble, the first four out that I had, if I forgot to mention, first four out, I had Texas A&M as the last team out, Utah, Villanova, and Ole Miss. Ole Miss has had a weak conference schedule and haven't won enough good games to get themselves into the field. But yeah, that's all for this episode of the Positionless podcast. First episode, we're gonna try and get some maybe even get some guys on here, maybe some athletes, college athletes, maybe hopefully in the future, high school athletes. We're gonna talk a lot of hoops, any type of hoops we're gonna talk about. And we're gonna bring some good content for the listeners. And yeah, that's gonna be it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed listening to this or watching this if you're on YouTube. Once again, thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully we can make this something great in the future. And yeah, be positionless.